Hey, good after. Tom Ginn and Mark Gassert. We will be right back.
Absolutely.
Well, Mark, we did our rollout, and I want to thank our corporate sponsor, ASEA. It allows us to be able to do this program. So how are you, Mark Gassert?
I'm doing great. What I did this weekend real quick before we delve into this exciting interview here with Andrew, looking forward to this, is I was Mr. Fixer-Upper, man. I painted, I mowed the grass, they cracked the whip, I kept going. And that's what I did Saturday and Sunday. So, we got our flooring in, so we're slowly bringing in the furniture items that we really want to keep. And then the other ones that we don't think we're going to keep, we're going to say 86, goodbye, no more. So we're trying to declutter the house. So that's one thing you can do, is have a project like that forces you to declutter your house when you have flooring put in.
Yeah, you end to find out you don't need as much as you think you need.
No, absolutely not. You don't.
Yeah.
And some people like to hoard things, and it's great having my son here, because now I can go up to him and say, here's a project from 3rd grade. I know what my better half would say, but he's like, man, ditch it. I don't want it. Thanks. Bye. See ya.
Yeah, so you had the honeydew list to do. I had
absolutely.
a lot of other things that were thrown up.
Yeah,
at me this weekend.
I heard you were Mr. Hailstorm there at the Great White North in your Wisconsin area.
Late Friday afternoon, we got hit pretty big hailstorm, and I tell you what, there's a bunch of ant roofers all over the place assessing damage all over the community here. We got hit pretty hard, so we're just waiting for our insurance adjuster to come out. And we live in a condo complex, and it's hammered pretty good, needless to say.
Right.
So, but yeah, and then
we've got some.
We got hit with another storm. Thank God we didn't get any hail. So I was scrambling to get here on time because our basement was flooding.
Outstanding.
Garage.
Hey,
yeah, so
we do have to recognize some of these people. They popped on real quick, man. Right at 6:03, AB. Gabor, look at that. He says,
hey,
love
AB,
decluttering. We are in the midst. Actually, he's going to soon be a neighbor. He's moving to Georgia. Yeah, and then Mr. Radio himself, Jay Fox.
Hey, Jay, how you doing, bud? Hey, tag and share this out. Tag and share. Who else jumped on here real quick?
And AB came out of White Plains on 731, Peachtree, Georgia. Okay, cool. All right. That'll be neat. And Jay, you are Mr. Radio, dude.
Yeah. Before we introduce our guest, I just want to, let everybody know a little bit about why we do what we're doing. I've been an entrepreneur, a small business owner since 1983, and I've gone through a lot of ups and downs, good and bad, pain, falling down, and this whole program is to help the small business person, or the person who may even desire to become an entrepreneur, to go in business themselves, to hear from people that have been in different areas of business, whether it be in sales, training, management, own their own businesses, authors, influencers. So we bring a wide range of people that come in to share their wisdom and knowledge to help anybody out there is listening. And with that, Mark, I'm going to defer to you, and then I'll make that introduction to our guest.
Oh, we'll have to read Jay's comment here after he comes back. We get into this.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Mark. We'll get back to that here in a second.
Okay. He said, happy to report with ASEA Redox, my brain is getting better. IQ is lifted from 134 to 144, tested last weekend, then left for a reunion in Wisconsin.
Well, heck, you're out there on Alaska?
Mm-hmm. Look at that picture.
Way, so hopefully we connect, Jay. But
that's great, Jay.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So Mark, anything you want to say about what we do and why we do it?
Elevate your profits.
Yeah.
What we're about.
Yeah.
Well, it's more than just money. I mean, everybody wants to make more money. I get that. And to me, elevate your profits is, what you do for self internally, what you do for others out there, whether it's in the community, the marketplace, how you're elevating not only yourself, but others. And I always say this, service to other is the rent we all pay for our room here on earth. And I feel like that's what this platform is really about. We could get in about redox molecules. We could get into real estate, sales training, you name it, radio. But I think what we try and convey that message to people is it's not just about dollars and cents, not that we're against that by any stretch of the imagination. You'd have to be living on a different stratosphere or planet if you didn't realize that everybody needs money to make it out there in the real world. However, there are various ways to do that. And we bring on all sorts of people from different walks of life, what they do, vocations, and they share their story with us. And tonight is no different. I'm really looking forward for Andrew Metz to come on here and tell us about his story and what he's doing.
Yeah, be glad to. I met Andrew several years ago in a financial coaching program, and him and his wife attended, and for what I think was a 6-week period, and we connected at that point, and we're associated in many of the business circles here in the Milwaukee area. And it's Andrew, I'm going to say is it took me 2 years to get you here to do a presentation, because when we were doing EIB before the COVID thing hit, we were trying to get you on to do a talk at our meeting there in West Dallas. So I finally nailed you down, buddy. So I'm really excited to have Andrew Metz come in. Andrew, are you ready?
Let's bring him in.
Let's bring him in.
There's the man.
We finally made it happen, Tom.
Yes. I'm excited to have you here. It's an honor to have you.
Thank
you. So what I always like to do is just sort of start a little bit about yourself, who you are, your family, where you're from, and those type of things.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Andrew Metz. I live in the Milwaukee area, not far from Tom, out in the suburbs here. I have 3 children, married to my high school sweetheart, and we have a 10-year-old boy, 8-year-old boy, and a 3-year-old girl. And on top of all that, we're homeschooling. That started during COVID, which has been an interesting endeavor. And I manage a sales team at a local SaaS company here in Milwaukee called Zywave. My career there has been very fulfilling. I love the comment, service to others is the rent we pay here on earth. I might steal that one. Is that copywritten, or can I borrow that?
No, have at it. Others have used it, but I don't know who has the actual handle on that.
All right. Well, I love it. I've always kind of led with servant leadership. I started at my organization in 2008. I made cold calls for 2 years. I was at the bottom of the rung of the sales floor. I told new people over the years that I used to clean the toilets too, which isn't totally true, but sentimentally it was accurate. And we're a 100-person organization in 2008, and today I oversee a 100-person sales organization. We're a 1,000-person company, and I'm the VP of sales there. So it's been a wild ride. 14 years in the making, a lot of ups and downs, and I left the organization for a bit, came back, and it's been fun, but life is good. I'm glad to be here.
Wonderful. Thanks
Fantastic.
for sharing that. I want to make some compliments here. You're on LinkedIn, and you post some pretty cool stuff about your family, your work, professional tips, and those type of things. And I just want to encourage people to go to LinkedIn, look you up, and make contact with you and see what you do out there besides what we're doing here tonight. So I got to ask this question. Here a couple months ago, you've changed hairdos, haven't you?
Yeah. When COVID hit, my hair was getting long, and there was this isolation period, and so I just went for it. And you find a picture on LinkedIn for sure. But my hair, about 60 days ago, I donated 10 inches to Wigs for Kids, which are typically cancer patient children that would accept shorter hair donations. It's out of the Detroit area, and it was cool. So I have a daughter that's 3 years old that only knew me with long hair. I have pretty long hair. It's pretty wild, and um, it didn't fit the corporate mold, but that was part of what kind of made it cool. So we rocked with it for a little bit, but it was too much maintenance. And once I found the opportunity to donate it, I thought it was a worthy cause to move on. So I think my mother and father were relieved.
And your daughter, you had to reintroduce yourself to your daughter, I'm sure. So
she came to the cut on purpose because we thought, oh, she might freak out when she sees me. So she actually saw me get my hair cut, and I think that helped settle the anxiety. So yeah, it was all good. It wasn't a big deal, but yeah, it feels good. It was cool. It was a fun thing to do. I think it's kind of coincides with how some of what I want to talk about tonight is just change and being different. And, a lot, Tom, you talked about when we met through financial coaching. I think a lot of that program is challenging the status quo of, society says you need this and you need credit cards, and the only way to build wealth is through debt and all this stuff. And I could tell you as a 38-year-old millionaire status with no debt that there's a lot of ways to build wealth. And to me, I've never really talked about money, but I've always thought I'm always kind of questioning what the masses are doing, and I'm not always skeptical of it. I'm definitely an optimist. I'm not a pessimist, but I'm always I think you're responsible for the decisions you make in your life, and I think it's okay to be different, right? Having long hair is different. There's aspects of my life that are different. And I think, LinkedIn, you mentioned, I'm pretty vulnerable and honest, and I talk about a lot of topics on there, and I don't see a lot of big title people with something to lose in corporate America. It's easy as an entrepreneur to stick your neck out there because you're your own boss, where I got 1,000-person organization with an executive team, and I got a lot of people looking up to me. And so I think there's a little more on the line. And to me, that's what makes it interesting. I think that's why it's stuck.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to bring up the hair thing because I believe what we do and demonstrate in life tells a lot about who we are and how we operate. Thank you very much for doing that, and because those kids are going through a lot, and being able to give something back to people that have a greater need than you and I have for hair, right? So,
amen.
Yeah. So I'm going to start it out tonight just with this, and then Mark, I'll defer to Mark here, and we just keep it real casual, just dialogue. I know you got something you want to share. So
I'll do whatever. I always got a presentation in the back pocket, but if you guys want to chat, we'll let it rip. So go for it.
Okay. Andrew, I'm a big person that believes in knowing your why, your purpose in life, not just in business, but I believe our why should be a thread through everything in our life. What's your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? What is your real purpose? What do you want to bring to the world? What type of difference, what type of legacy do you want to leave for yourself, your family, and those that are in your community?
Yeah, I think the concept of servant leadership is important to me in the way I parent, in the way I conduct myself in my community, in the way I lead my sales team. I think, and this kind of goes back to, Tom, how we met through finances was I made a lot of money, quote unquote, that's a relative term. I thought it was a lot of money at 32 years old, and it was tax time, and I was looking back and I was embarrassed with how much money I did or didn't give away. It was kind of embarrassing to think, because I had this sales trajectory where I was a cold caller and I just kind of, cut my teeth, and then I started selling, and I started being really having a lot of having a lot of success, and financially. Speaking of kids, sorry, I got to.
Well, that's okay. That makes you authentic, sir.
Yeah, it's really happening. My 3-year-old was coming in. My wife got caught in the hailstorm, so she's gonna be here soon. But I think what I've seen a lot of is managing salespeople for 10 years is they ramp up their lifestyle just as fast as their income ramps up. And I think trying to look through the lens of this time on earth is it goes fast, and we should be leaving the place better than we found it, kind of a thing. And so to me, it comes down to giving. That's the end goal for me, is to give the money away, give the knowledge away, give them my time, be generous, be a good role model. Leading by example is really important to me. I grew up in a really big family. I grew up in a blended family of 6, so I had 5 siblings around me all the time. And I think by the time I got into high school, the leadership role to be the captain of the football team or the track team was just kind of natural to me, and maybe I had good mentors around me. But when I got into college, I became a resident assistant, and which I always joke around. I wasn't that cool, obviously, but I remember that feeling of, oh, I'm held to a higher standard than my peers, right? Everyone was out drinking and having fun, and I'm over here enforcing the rules. And I didn't think, woe was me. I thought this is a way for me to get through college. But that mentality of going, I gotta hold myself to a little higher standard if I want the responsibility of leadership. And then when I got into corporate America, I got into sales leadership at a very young age. I think I was 28, and I was managing people in their 40s or whatever. But it wasn't new to me because I had been leading amongst peers or people older than me for some time. And to get back to the why, it's really to be a generous person. It's to be a good leader. It's to be a good role model. And those facets of life aren't just professionally, they're not just personally. I mean, it's physical too. I went out and ran 8 miles yesterday, and I feel like, we were talking about my jumping on LinkedIn as a joke, but to me, it's all use it or lose it stuff. And, mind, body, spirit, all those things are important. So those are things that at 38 years old, I feel really blessed that I'm not chasing paychecks. I'm not trying to buy new cars. I mean, I like things too, but I've really tried to, and the financial coaching we did, Tom, really, I think, set the course for my wife and I to go, okay, we're going to eliminate the debt and have this solid foundation where now we can give more. We're not stressing about things. We're not making decisions because of money. And a funny thing happened. Once that all happened, all the money came, by the way, I started making more money almost unintentionally, but I've never felt like I've been chasing paychecks, and I've never quit jobs and leveraged things and threatened people. And I just kind of have tried to do the right thing. And, it's that gratitude, and, it's manifested into a lot of positive energy and positive people around me in my life.
You said, and I'm going to just, I've been in sales since 1983. I've built my own organizations, trained sales organizations.
Yep.
But this is something I saw, and just tell me if you've gone through financial coaching, you saw what it does. It frees up that stress. It frees up how you communicate. It allows you to work with somebody versus I got to get the sale today, make the car payment type situation.
Exactly.
What I've seen for years, and maybe you can see that when you see salespeople and you're hiring and developing people, who are your most successful salespeople? The ones that don't have financial concerns, they're doing it for a different reason, or the person that has financial concerns, or they're chasing the paycheck. Who ultimately becomes the most successful?
Well, I think there's a profile there, the latter, that are probably more susceptible to cut corners and maybe make the quick sale, or do things to get the quick buck. I do think that there's something about long-term thinking and vision and going, this conversation right here, if this is a relationship for 10 more years, I might treat it differently than if it's the one and only time we talk, which I know it won't be, right? And I think if you kind of go through life transactionally and just trying to move and, hey, I'm using this person to get to this thing, as opposed to going, hey, if I got to be accountable to this person 5 years from now, I mean, I've hired salespeople that have been with me for 8, 9, some 10 years. And so, you view that the investment of time like that differently. And sales is a good example, right? Where it can be money driven, transactional, and certainly hustle and And effort is a huge portion that's important. I'm not saying that we just sit around and meditate and money shows up in the mailbox. I mean, there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, but doing things the right way.
Yeah.
I think what I'm looking for, and I've hired literally hundreds of salespeople over the last 10 years, is coachability, right? Is who's willing to take feedback and not be defensive, who's got the right characters and morals. I mean, that ends up there's always these gray areas of how do you treat this thing and how do you treat other people. That's another big thing. As my organization's gotten bigger, I talk a lot about internal customers. The service people are internal customers, the accounting people, the collections people, the training and support. These people you need on your side. Don't treat them like dispensable things. They're not going to reciprocate the respect. And so that's all been part of it as well.
Yeah, and I just want to close and turn it over to Mark. But when I had financial issues, and I've had them in my life, today I'm blessed that I've applied those principles, and today I'm in that situation that I can do what I want, when I want, and why I want to do it. So, but I look back and all the salespeople that succeeded, it wasn't about the money. They didn't have money problems. They were able to do some things. And I had money problems. My sales went down. But when I cleared my money issues up and my relationship to that, my sales went up, my productivity went up, because I believe there's a lot that goes on in the human subconscious that goes on.
Yes.
That person can sense you need the sale today.
Yeah. I always say one of my principles is two things you cannot be as a salesperson: desperate or needy. It's an unattractive quality for the prospect side, right? So always kind of thinking about it from their side. It's like you want to be sincere, you want their business, you want to work hard for their business, but you do not want to be desperate. You do not want to be needy. People don't like working with needy people. They don't care that you need it for this commission. They don't care that you need one more deal to make the President's Club trip. That's not important. That's not why they're buying, right? They're buying because that service or product's going to benefit their business.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing that, because with my experience and myself personally and the people I used to hire, I saw these things happening all the time, and you as well. I love what you're saying. Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you. Because Mark,
do you really want to do that? No, Andrew. I was looking at your LinkedIn page, and excuse me, I'm standing here. I'm leaning over,
That's right.
so excuse me, everybody. But one of the things that struck me is when you said, "My belief is that you are either, you're learning something new or you're dying," and that reminds me of something I heard a long time ago about staying a green apple. Don't become ripe, because if you do, you're going to get picked. And some of the things I thought about you, since you have kids, Little Engine That Could by Waddy Piper. You ever hear of this guy, Brave Cowboy Bill? And if you haven't, I'm dating myself. Or The Mom Factor, and when I say the mom factor to people, sometimes I am on the phone a lot during the day, and I will, nicely say, Andrew, I realize I may have caught you at a bad time, but I just got one question at the very end. I'll say, hey, do you really think like your mom would appreciate you using that language? I won't get into the language I hear on occasion, not every day, but it makes you think about things. Would your mom be proud of you yelling at someone? Would your mom be proud of you and not listening, not properly engaging, whether it's with your spouse, your wife, a friend, a coworker? We could go on and on and on. And I got this thing called the mom factor for people. And we talked about this last week about ego, checking it at the door. And some people have a problem with that. They always got to be the person. And me, I'm at this age where I'm at in my life, I am willing to open up and learn from, just about anybody that has something of value. And that's kind of always been, hasn't always been, but here I would say in the last 10 years, based on things we've gone through as a society, me personally, growth and development, that's where I'm coming from. But those things I threw out there, like Little Engine That Could, because you have kids, You know, if you don't know who Brave Cowboy Bill is, the moral of that is he was an excellent cowboy, but Brave Cowboy Bill always listened to his mother at the very end. So there was a hook at the end of that. Burl Ives, by the way, did that, and I'm really dating myself. But the mom factor, I don't know how you feel about that. Somebody one day said, "What in the hell are you talking about, Mark? The mom factor?" I said, "Think about it. Did you ever think about that when you get on the phone or when you're talking to somebody? Have you ever really? Is it about you always being right, or is it about you listening, or?" And that's just something I'm throwing out there.
Yeah, no, well, my mom, she watches my LinkedIn because she's still a professional. She's actually an author and a national speaker. So
Right.
sometimes she's still active on LinkedIn. So yeah, I get whatever we're putting out there. We gotta. I actually say would grandma approve of it? So that's even one step. You know, it's like
Sure.
what are you gonna post online? What does your grandma think of it? You know, I was thinking about someone you said ego, and I think about times in my career, certainly early on, you know, where the ego showed through and it was, you know, the Andrew Metz show and get out of the way and, you know, let me take the stage kind of a thing. And I think my reflection on that is a lot of that is around insecurity. And I think when people do this overcompensation, it's almost I usually view it as, man, I don't know if they're grounded. I don't know if they're fully sure of what they bring to the table. And sometimes sometimes people grow out of it. Sometimes people find maturity. I've been really lucky to go through the ranks of my organization, and it's not like I don't have anything to prove. I have a lot to prove. I still run with a chip on my shoulder. I still go through. Tomorrow morning, I will go up the elevators that I went up for many years, and I'll go in the office, and I still view myself as a cold caller, right? I look through the lens of, man, I got to go work hard today to earn this paycheck, and to, you know, at this point now, it's not to appease my boss, it's to show up for my team and give them what they need, right? A lot of people depend on, you know, me to make good sound decisions and carry myself in a certain way so that they can be in position to go make their money for their livelihood, for their family. So but I just think a lot of that, to me, it boils down to gratitude and being able to go, what do I have that 5 years ago I would have died to have. Like the day I was cold calling for Zywave, they didn't even let me take meetings. If you would have told me then that you'd be running a 100-person sales organization, I don't know what I would have done. Well, first of all, I wouldn't have believed you, right? So when we can kind of time warp and go back to what our mindset was at that time, it gets beyond just this is comfortable and I'm used to this. And you know, that leading with that style creates more there's more approachability to a leader that is, certainly I got to be good at what I do. Certainly I need to have the chops and make good decisions and add value to everyone's universe. That's a given. But to not have the ego of you owe me something because you report to me, or rather to take the I'm serving you, right? Like my internal customers are my 86 salespeople and the 15 sales managers that help me run the team. I did lunch with one of them today in downtown Delafield, and we just spent an hour to talk about, half an hour was about life, half an hour was about work. And that's the best use of my time, is getting in touch with what the people that are actually on the street level closing deals. That's where my gratitude lies professionally. So that's a lot what I think about when I see ego. It's just like, you know, you have some interaction with someone and they're mad and they're barking at you. It's usually more about them than it is about you, something you did, right? It's like they're hurting somewhere. They're going through a divorce, or they put a dog down, or whatever. All those things happen, you know, and the bigger the team you run, the more life that happens. I just had a sales rep of mine last week. Her spouse, she's in her 40s. Her spouse dropped dead at work and passed away, and they have an 8-year-old boy, and it's heartbreaking. And somehow you need to commingle the professional, whatever's got to happen with the important stuff, the life stuff, right? And the services and the meal trains and the donations and the coverage and you know, there's the show goes on, but we got to pause and stop every moment and go, life is precious, life is short, and we got to enjoy the moments. When I got to go out to lunch with my guy, and we can't just go through the motions. We need to appreciate those moments too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think those are pearls of wisdom there that, we never know. You started at the cold calling ranks and you worked your way up. And so that tells me a lot that, so when you're talking to your team, where they're at least in that space of the professional side. We can't ever put ourselves in somebody else's shoes in their lives of what's going on, but you've been there. And you've had struggles and you've had wins.
Oh, yeah.
And you have an opportunity to help that person believe in themselves, right?
That's what it is. I mean, I'm meeting with, so we call them the BDR team. There's about 20 people that just cold call for Zywave, where I started. I'm actually having lunch with them tomorrow in the office. And to me, that's just like, it's such a cool full circle opportunity, right? And it's not a look at me thing. It's hopefully inspirational to show them what opportunities are out there. And I think you hit on sometime failures, disappointments, messy organizational things. I mean, my company, we're private equity backed. We've acquired maybe 12 companies during my time there. We just acquired one last week. That's messy and bumpy, right? You absorb a 50-person company. Their new head of sales is reporting to me. I did a call with them this morning, and everyone's like, "What does this mean to me?" Right? I've had a head of sales get fired. I have had, and I was reporting to the CEO. I had the CEO get fired. We've had to, exit people because it's not a right fit, and all that can be done with compassion. But the point is, it's never been a smooth line. It's jaggedy, and there's times that look better than others. But that's kind of the grit factor, is seeing the big picture, not getting too emotional. I think that's one thing I think a lot about. I'm kind of an emotional person. I'll get rah-rah, and you put a mic in my hand, and I always say, I'll be your hype man. Let me talk before you. I'll be your hype man. But on the negative side, on the serious side, I think that kind of calm hand at the wheel. What does this mean? What does COVID mean to our business, right? What does presidential swings mean? A big deal in our world because we're insurance based, and employee benefits and group health. There's legislative change, and we went through the Affordable Care Act, and that meant a big deal to our space. And it's like there's a lot of let's not overreact just yet. Let's assess the situation. Let's find the opportunity. And I feel like those that have embraced the change, accepted it, but have looked for the opportunity, have greatly benefited. I think it's the Art of War said, chaos breeds opportunity. That seems to be a line I pulled out of my management hat a lot when it looked pretty dark, right? And even right now, I'll be candid, my business, because we've basically doubled in size in the last 3 years. We were about 400 employees 2.5 years ago, and we're 1,100 now. Wow. That's messy. That's real messy. And a lot of that's through acquisition. So now you're smashing cultures in, and there's a fair amount of growing pains, and there's a fair amount of, we're still figuring things out. And there's, we've had attrition. And so I think, as I think about organizations and, small businesses being kind of our target audience here, is if you're expecting it to be perfect every day, you got to change your expectations. Right. And, there's some formula out there, going back to Mark quotes that you don't know who to attribute it to, but happiness is really your expectations minus reality, right? It's like I had a friend that was, he was on the President's Club trip with us in Jamaica, and he was like, I just thought the location sucked and the food wasn't that good, and I was like, my response was, I was down there with my wife. My mother-in-law was watching my 3 kids, bless her heart. I'm down there as the head of sales, hosting a 5-day trip in Jamaica for the company that I started cold calling for. I'm hosting these people. Life's good, right? I don't know. I just thought, to me, it's really easy to look at the glass half full and appreciate it. And I kind of keep taking myself back to humble beginnings and opportunities that I've had, and right. I think those that embrace those opportunities get to enjoy them.
Yeah, it's appreciation. Having gratitude. Is so important. Unfortunately, we have people that no matter what it is, they'll find something to complain about, and that must be hard in leadership.
Yeah.
when you're doing your best and you're trying to put them first in your decisions, because I think a lot of companies don't put their people first, and we got to have that balance. And that must be really frustrating to experience that, because the company didn't have to do it.
Well, I don't get bent out of shape. I kind of think it's his loss, right? Um,
Yeah.
and maybe it's not my place to check him on it, but all I can do is share. Once again, it's more lean by example. I've never really been big into like, I'm going to bark at you and direct you. It's more like, if a salesperson's not running enough meetings to be successful, we could certainly go, you got to go run 20 meetings a month. Or we can go, in order for you to be successful, let me show you the math of how many meetings we got to run based upon your closing ratio, based upon your quota. And look, if you don't run this, you're not going to be making the money you wanted. You're going to leave anyways. If you don't run this, it's not going to be adequate for us. So let's just get a game plan of how we can proceed. If this isn't your cup of tea, I can understand that. We can find out a new plan. But the idea is, it's more about, incentivizing with the carrot as opposed to the stick, so to speak. Because at the end of the day, some people get motivated by getting barked at, but for the most part, I think people want to be treated like adults. That people want to be respected, and walking with them down that path to say, I will do this with you. Let's put together a coaching plan, right? We roll out performance improvement plans, fairly often. You got 80 people. There's people below quota or not hitting expectations, and you can just kind of give them a warning, a 30-day notice that we're going to fire you in 30 days, or we can put together a plan to get things back on track. And I've had a lot of successful salespeople that just needed that wake up call to go and proceed, and they needed guidance, right? These people aren't, we're hiring really talented salespeople, but it's a unique value prop in what we're selling and what we're doing. So we owe it to them as leadership to guide them in what good looks like.
Yeah. I heard something the other day. You may know the name is, do you know a guy in the Windows business? No, but I know a gal. Have you heard of that commercial?
I don't think I have.
It's a woman, has a window company, and
Okay.
she was on a talk program the other day and talking a little bit about what you're saying there, is how she's built her company here locally.
Okay.
And she made this comment. It made a big impact in her philosophy in business. She had a big team meeting. She says, I don't want to build an organization to be good. I want our organization to be great. And she establishes that. She says, we got to do more for our customers. We got to go out of the way to do the extra, meet their needs, do everything in our power. We just don't want to be good at whatever they do. We don't want to be just good installers. We don't want to be just good salespeople. We don't want to be just good customer service. We want to be great at it. We want to be exceptional. And the way she said it was so powerful, because I think many times I look at when she said that, I says, you know what? I've used good too often.
Mm-hmm.
We're good. No, let's take it a notch. Is that what you're trying to inspire your people to do?
Yeah, I think there's always, and that, pursuit of perfection might never be found. But I think, to your point, there's always one more gear, right? There's always a little more we can give. And I think, unfortunately or fortunately, I've worked for private equity money for 14 years now, and I'm on my third private equity owner. And so those folks that aren't familiar with private equity, it's kind of like flipping a house. You buy a company for 3 to 4 years, and you want to 2.5, 3.5, 4x it. And I'm on my third private equity firm that will 3x my organization in a 5-year window roughly. They don't settle for good. There's extremely high expectations. There's 10% organic growth. There's push more and more. It's like, it's like the high school football coach. You're living with him for 15 years kind of a thing. And to some degree, I'm really fortunate for that. And I get some people can't run at that pace and those high expectations. But when that becomes your norm, that becomes my comfort zone, is running in this pace. And step outside or peer outside the organization. And there's a lot of people that want to be there. And I think to your point, Tom, one of my favorite quotes is a Jim Rohn quote, which is, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And I think about that professionally. I think about that personally. I think about that in my network. Right? Is if you're held to a high standard for a long time, that becomes your new norm. That's the new benchmark. And there's something very appealing about that, as far as how you're living your life professionally.
Yeah. Great points. Just what you're saying, I have a good knowledge of why you're succeeding at the levels you are. Just how you're approaching everything there. You're in being in a private equity company, a whole different than a stock company, and
Yes.
probably a whole lot different than a single owner company as well. So you're on under fire 7/24 when you're working in that.
Yeah, I've never worked in a public company. My wife has worked for Johnson Controls, and well, that's not true. I worked for Oracle for a little bit prior, but I will say, in some of these family-owned smaller businesses, there's probably a lot of factors that might go into hiring, firing, how long we hold on to people. There's a lot more like statistical mechanics and less emotion in a private equity, where they're looking at a line item. They're like, this guy or gal hasn't sold in 2 months, they're gone, or whatever, right? Or we're looking at activity. And so I'm kind of blending the human element with the sabermetric baseball analogy, if that makes sense. Like, where they're kind of looking at it all through Moneyball, right? Well, I don't care how nice this guy is, they haven't sold enough in the last year, they're out, right? And there's definitely a mentality of that. So that's our job, is to keep people productive, happy. And by the way, when you push people hard in sales and show them the way, and they're successful, they're also making money. They're also more likely to hang around, right? So there's a ripple effect that's worth pursuing. Is that my own attrition of, if I have 86 sellers and a third of them leave in the next 6 months, there's a lot of heartburn to rehire all those people. And our budgets are locked in January, and I carry that budget through the rest of the year. So if I have a mass exodus because I'm a bad leader, then it will be my head on the chopping block, right? So that a lot of that keeps you honest, and makes you treat the person holistically beyond just a sales number. And we got to go figure out what's going to make them tick, what's going to motivate them, and that's a part of it. But working under that pressure cooker, there's not a lot of room for error. So there's opportunity to there's always opportunity to improve and strive for greatness.
Yeah. Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you. Any question? I know Mark is he sells companies and organizations, sales training programs. You guys could probably have a great conversation about sales training.
I could probably learn a lot from you.
No, not from me. You wouldn't. I'd learn a lot from you. No, I think one of the things, Andrew, with what's happening right now, I sometimes used to struggle with this, but here of late, man, I'm just out about having fun today. And I had about 5 conversations that were fun. Now, I didn't deal with the person. So you and your cohorts in crime might have said he failed. But what I did is I developed a relationship with the person that answered the phone, treated him like a human being instead of a robot, and trying to get information out. We talked about everything. I've found out about this one lady I spoke to today. Her son is in the Navy, thanked him for serving. And we talked about different things. And, her father was in World War II. So we had something in common there, talking about greatest generation and a lot of things. And every now and then I'd insert a question about the organization as well, what they're doing, how they're doing things. And I was getting information that way. But it was really a fun conversation. And I was on the phone with her for like 25 minutes. And that's unheard of for I won't call her a gatekeeper because she really isn't. And I said, well, now I know who truly runs the office. And she just laughed. But she said, I will definitely, pass along your information. And, because I asked, like, how could I get, like, for you, how can I get on Andrew's schedule? What do I have to do to get on the schedule? I realize, they're running full bore here. So I'm just about having fun out there, and I just feel like that is going to pay more dividends than, question, inquisition, to get what you want or need. I know some people may say, hey, that's maybe not the best approach. I don't do it all the time, but you kind of can tell when you are engaging with somebody, hey, here's an opportunity for me to have a real conversation with someone. And I learned a lot about her son, who at the time was on a nuclear sub, and my cousin was on a nuclear sub for quite some time, back around the Vietnam era. But yeah, learned quite a few things, like where he was, like maybe the Soviet Union at the time.
Wow.
I could go on, but it's really kind of neat when you talk to people, because everybody, and Tom and I talk, we all have stories. We all come from somewhere. People go through struggles. You've gone through struggles, and I always like. I think that's what kind of sets people up to move to the next step. That process of going through that struggle. So, like yesterday, I was humping it around the house, and I said, I know there's a reason, God, you're making me do all this. So, I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to do it. And, I don't know how much trim I paid and around our house and other things, cut the grass, did this, did that, and just did it. And I figured, if it's good enough for Bill Russell, who talks about doing things with joy in your heart, it's good enough for me. He has a book, and you mentioned the word ego, 11 Principles of Leadership. And I'm a big Bill Russell fan because I saw him play back in the day against Chamberlain. But he mentioned team ego. He said the difference between me and you, and the reason we have these rings, like when he was a coach, is my team ego. I will not let my team down. That's the difference. And it was just kind of a different approach. I know he's an enigma to some sports broadcasters out there because they think he's kind of aloof, but he said we can be friendly, but we can't be friends because we're not going down the same path. And sometimes people misconstrued that he wasn't a friendly person. That's not what he was saying. And you mentioned about who you hang around with, Jim Rohn, 5 people, and all those things kind of make sense when you look at the big picture things. But I'm excuse my rant, but that's kind of where I was talking about, like talking to people, how you engage with them, and treating them with dignity and respect, even when they're not treating you that same way, because I'll give the benefit doubt and say, hey, you know what? How do I know? Andrew could have gone through a divorce, maybe his daughter has cancer, or, maybe
You
he just
never know.
found out. Maybe he just found out that 3 of his key people are leaving, or
That's
and
it. And I think what you were talking about, I think a lot about humanizing, that you said, I'm not going to call her a gatekeeper, but to your point, I think when people treat that transactionally, right? Just let me move out of the way so I can get to what I need to.
right,
People can sense that. And I think
right.
I guarantee the next time you call in, you're not a stranger, right? And
Oh no,
she probably really appreciates that.
right,
I I I I think that's true in so many aspects of life. And look, it doesn't always need to be quid pro quo just for you to get
sure,
something. Like
sure,
treating a bank teller with respect because
right,
you
right,
appreciate what they're doing. You're going to get the money whether you're a jerk or not. But
right,
there's a better way to enjoy life. And I think there's some karma value. I think there's some put it out there, and I think
right,
it just feels better, right? That's kind of like my generosity thing too. It's like I think probably the most fun thing you can do with money is give it away or find worthy causes to support or show someone that you believe in them where they didn't think to. I have a friend that's he was one of my sales reps and he went on to another organization. We kept in touch. We still talk often. We haven't worked together for 4 years. He decided to go start his own business, and he said someone that used to work with him that wasn't really a friend, but they knew him. He gave him $5,000 just to support his new
oh wow,
entrepreneurial business. Said, I don't want anything from this. I'm just here to support you. I admire what you're doing. And that kind of fuel that someone believes in you is really powerful. And this guy,
right,
he might never get a financial return, but that might be a gift that blossoms into something really special. And who knows? Once again, there was no quid pro quo arrangement. It was just done as a. I'm sure he was a very wealthy guy, and I would love to be generous like that, right? To
Right.
not to be showy, but to find opportunities where you can believe in people. And I kind of think of that not financially now, but I end up mentoring a lot of people because I went through the ranks, and there's a lot of salespeople, and some people come and go, and I love that feeling of, hey, we haven't worked together in 3 years, but you still want to grab lunch with me or grab coffee, because it shows that there's some genuine relationship beyond just.
Right.
I'm showing them that it's not just about you sell things and I make money because of it. It's I'm continuing the relationship because I feel like you said this before. I feel like I can always learn from someone.
Right.
You could learn from the gatekeeper you start to. You learn from the bank teller you interact with. You can learn from people come into to my organization from different companies. I go, tell me about your last job. How'd you guys do this? How'd you do that? And I'll say, just because I've been here for a long time doesn't mean I have all the answers. In fact, my biggest fear is that we're doing things that we've just done for years and years and years, but it's not the
Right.
right thing, right? So I think
Right.
people are always refreshed or surprised, like you want what? Yeah, you've been in this industry for 7 years. How did they handle, price increases through current customers? How do they do,
Right.
how do you do retention efforts? How do you do whatever? There's a million
Mhm.
questions I could ask, and just being very open-minded, assuming there's something you can learn from someone is really powerful too, and it'll make you a better listener too, right? It's not just about let me just tell you what's in my head. There was another
Yeah.
great quote. I can't remember who, but it said, "Wisdom is the gift you get for not speaking all the times you wanted to interrupt someone." It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
better
That's a great
better
point. Yeah.
more bluntly said, shut up and listen, because you might be able to learn something, right? So I think about that often.
Yeah. And
Great.
that's a great point, Andrew. And I at the end of the conversation, I said, I know this call's being recorded, and this is probably one of the better calls I had today. So while you're
Nice.
listening to this call, give this lady a raise. And she just howled. She howled at the very end. I said, give this
Great.
lady a raise. But another thing you mentioned about, like, people in that servant mentality. Tom knows this. I umpire. So on a weekends, I get to see people line fields. I get to see people do various tasks at a baseball field. And it could even be serving at the concession stand. And I always make it a point to say, hey, I really appreciate you doing what
Yeah,
you're doing here today.
that's
Like,
awesome.
we're waiting in between games, and in the end, there's like 3 or 4 guys lining the field, and they'll look at me, and I'll say, hey, by the way, would you like to take my spot here, and we can switch this out? And they're like, man, ain't no way I want to do what you do. But we just have fun with it. I says, I'm getting ready to get behind the plate. But I think that's important, how you treat people. And I know sometimes it doesn't always come across that way for some. And I, I'm not saying everybody. There are those I can sense they feel like they're here and you're here. You're subservient to
Sure.
them because I've got more money. I drive a better car. I live in a better neighborhood. But I find people that are like successful like you, that's not the case. And if anything, they're applauding those that are out there trying to make it happen.
Yes. Yeah, it's the metaphor or the example I think about is, if you're a really fit person and you're in the gym and there's someone
Hmm.
that's overweight out there exercising, you shouldn't be laughing at them because they're overweight.
Nope.
You should be applauding them for
Right.
trying, right? And
Right.
that's the same thing. I see it all the time with young people just trying to make it, and it's, hey, we all start somewhere, right? So
Hmm.
there's no need to look down upon. In fact, I think it's very powerful to get encouragement from a mentor type person, or someone that you go, I would
Right.
like to be you in 10 years. So I've always tried to, early on in my career, I can think of many people, mentors in my life, and then kind of like mentors in books I've read and that sort of thing. And I think when you get that affirmation, the words of encouragement from someone you really admire, um, that goes a
Right.
long way. So like one of the principles of my sales leadership. So I have 3 vice presidents that report to me, and they have 10 frontline sales leaders. So I do a leadership academy, and we talk a lot about how do you carry yourself and leadership principles. But one of the sayings that's been kicked around a lot in our organization is, your whispers a roar, right? You might say something off the cuff, and it might mean a lot to someone, right? and that can go both ways. That could be a positive thing, and that could be a negative
Right.
thing, right? You might make some off, you short someone in an email or say something just kind of, and that might damage them. It's going to have a bigger impact. It gets magnified the further down towards the street level you get. So um, that's part of that responsibility of leadership and leading by example and being really thoughtful on how you carry yourself and what you say and how accepting you are of people and that sort of thing.
That's a great point. Thank you for sharing that, Andrew.
We all have had personal people that have been mentors. It could be a friend, a coworker, it could have been somebody. We all have them. But who are some of your people books you read, the people you like following? Who are some of, because I think it's important for people to hear this, that those that succeed at the highest levels, beyond what I call average, because we do have a threshold average, that exceed that, do a lot of reading.
Mm-hmm.
They get mentors, they get coaches, they go to workshops, they do all the little things. And a lot of people think they're big things, but in reality, they're little steps to get there. Who are some of the people that, I call light your fire, when you hear them speak or read their words resonate with you? Who are those type of people?
Yeah, I think it was my first sales job. I was out of college. I wasn't a great student. I got through, but I was never interested in the textbooks. And I remember picking up, it was Jeffrey Gitomer book. It was called The Sales Bible. And I remember thinking, because I was in my first job, there was a lot on the line because it was my career. And I remember it was commission based. I mean, I had some base salary, and I remember thinking, could this $24 book give me the tools I need to go make tens of thousands of dollars, right? And that's I feel like I feel sad saying this to my college professors, but that's when my education started, was when I saw the tangibility of, I might learn a concept today that I can apply tomorrow. And so, yeah, I've been a huge reader in the personal development space. I love, I really love Jim Rohn. I think a lot of what Tony Robbins and even more modern people like Tim Ferriss wrote the 5 Hour Work Week. He cites Jim Rohn all the time. That's probably more in my generation that people like, the Tim Ferriss types. And I always kind of go back to, and then if you really dig into it, it kind of goes back to like Marcus Aurelius or some of these, philosophers and stuff. And what I've learned in 15 years of reading personal development books and sales books is usually it's the same concepts that are morphed into a different way. They're all kind of saying very similar things, or at the heart of it, they're very similar, but it's wrapped in a different packaging, and that's okay. I'm not saying anyone's copying anyone. What I think is, as a communicator, as a speaker, as a leader of a big team, I might be regurgitating something similar, but if I can communicate in a way that is heard literally and figuratively on the ears of who I'm trying to communicate that with, that's the point, right? It's what's going to resonate. It's the woman that's selling windows that said, we're not going to be good, we're going to be great. For some reason, that just hit you in the right moment, and I can think of some books. One of my first mentors at Zywave was a regional manager, sales manager, and he taught me a lot. And the book he always preached was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I was like, all right, this book's 100 years old. I don't know. I'm 27 years old. I got all the answers. And that book really hit me. And it's a lot of things we just talked about, right? It's not to win friends, to be sly or be deceptive. It's don't give a compliment just to give a compliment. Give a compliment that something you admire about someone, that you really admire, right? And that one lit me on fire for sure. I went through a Tony Robbins phase. I went through, Dave Ramsey, certainly on the personal finance. I actually am in the process of listening to Baby Step Millionaire, which I think is cool. I've been able to kind of progress my own financial, through debt into wealth building. And I got to say too, like I'm big into Audible. I do a lot of audio books, and some of that's a busy lifestyle. And I go walk the dog for 2 miles in the morning, and I'll listen to a book. But YouTube, though there's plenty of rabbit holes and wastes of time on social media, I think there's really good YouTube platforms to hear the the Brene Browns, the Tony Robbins, the John Maxwell's of the world. There's just so much good content, snippets, Jim Rome snippets out there that it can be a really powerful tool. I think it can be a lot of junk too. I mean, to me, it's junk in, junk out, and garbage in, garbage out kind of a thing. But I think of my kind of listening for audiobooks, personal development. It's the protein. There could be a little carbohydrates in there, and you listen to a little music, or there could be entertainment stuff. I'm not saying it's all personal development all the time, but it's just like a diet for me mentally. I think of that way, where it's like there's protein listening, and maybe we'll have an ice cream at night, and you can go something goofy, or like to me, my kind of I do follow, because I'm in Wisconsin, the Packers are like a religion here. So there's a little bit of fantasy football, a little bit of Packer talk. That's okay, but it can't be it. It's another Jim Rome quote is, don't major in minor things. And I think fantasy football is a minor thing that I think people major in sometimes. I rather major in the important things than the minor things. So, but it's okay. Balance is okay. And, enjoy things in moderation, and that's good too.
I tell you what, an hour goes quick when you get like minds together. I
just looked at the clock. Here we are.
Yeah. And
we got to bring him back.
Night does some two-stepping with his wife. He goes out. He does some dancing and
nice.
His wife. And
we got a dance class that's why I direct message Tom. I said, we're 1 minute till 7 because I'm waiting for my wife to knock on this door and say, time.
Don't miss that. That's the important stuff.
Right.
Well, Andrew, in one parting word, what would you say to anybody that's looking to go into sales, sales management? What would be one parting word you'd like to leave that they would go across all those things that encourage them to do?
Well, I think this is true whether you're going in sales or you're starting your career, starting something different. I think you need to understand, have realistic expectations. That's not always going to be perfect and easy. Embrace the challenge, and what you're going to find in whatever pursuit you're going after is that the real fun is in the journey, not in the destination, which is a cliche thing. But I could tell you I've become a marathon runner in the last 2 years. I've talked about some of my financial success, but professionally speaking, and, I look back on things and it's like, you get to the top of the mountain, you go, the view is good, but man, you think about the struggle, the tough things that got you there. And that's what builds character, and that's what builds your confidence. So enjoy it all. It's easy to say now. There's going to be some crummy days out there. There's going to be some days where it doesn't go your way. That's all part of it, right? And once you know that going into it, it will help you accept those things sooner so that you can continue to push yourself, get out of your comfort zone, and grow.
Wonderful. Great advice. Well, my friend, we'll have to have coffee here soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're right down the street. I'm going to put you in our green room and enjoy those. You didn't tell me that you were a marathoner now. So, but, next time I'll get you fruit or something, instead of candy, M&Ms. But
no, you can eat M&Ms. If you run marathons, you can eat anything. That's the beautiful thing. So bring on the M&Ms. I'm good with that.
All right.
Okay.
Hang tight for a few minutes.
Thanks.
Well, Mark, that's Andrew Metz. I knew he'd be a special guest. I've been following him since the day I met him at our financial coaching program.
Right.
And, he's that example that to follow, and I learned a lot from him tonight, and I'm sure you did as well. So,
absolutely.
So, well,
we need to have him back. That's
Yes,
all I'm going to say. He needs to come back. He definitely needs to come back.
I know he had a presentation to do, and
Right.
I know it would have blown everybody's mind with it.
I know.
So I know you got a commitment to do a little two-stepping. What are you learning how to dance now to?
Let's see. It's either going to be nightclub or East Coast swing. I hope it's nightclub.
Okay.
That would be kind of cool, just for a different taste, a different flair, different, So
all right.
I need all the help I can get, man. So I just go out there and have fun,
We are going to wrap it up. We just want to thank everybody that made their comments, tag and share.
Absolutely. J Fox, AB. Robert Brooker.
There we go. Yeah, Robert, thanks for following us, guys. So we're calling it a night. Success is a mindset, and it goes from yourself, your personal growth, all the way to your assets. So with that all said, we're going to say good night.
Good night, everybody. Love you guys.